excited to have Tessa with us again from Studio Jane. If you've been in one of our classes before, you've seen Tessa crafting. She is a master crafter from California, and we love partnering with her for these awesome Michaels classes. So just a heads up, I will be the moderator for the class. So any questions you have, anything you want to share, how things are going, please put them in the Q&A, and I will be letting Tessa know some of the questions and some of the comments, either live or I'll type back to you. I see Juliet Jones, Dougie and his mom are from Austin, Texas. Oh, Tessa and I love Austin, Texas. We've actually traveled there together before.
Yes,
so
big fans.
We're big fans of Austin and Torchy's Tacos for sure. So, all right, everyone. We'll get started with the craft for today.
All right. Hi, everyone. Yes, as Lori said, thank you for joining us. I'm so excited to be crafting with you. And we are going to be making these fun little wooden craft stick fairies. They're sort of ballerina-esque, fairy-esque. So depending on what you want to make today, you can make either a little fairy. This one has a fun little felt tutu or skirt. This one has a little sequin skirt. So we're going to make a couple different options together today. And we're going to go through the supply list with you first. So first you're going to need some wooden craft sticks or popsicle sticks. And to make your little fairies, you're going to need 3 craft sticks per fairy. So depending on how many you want, you're going to need at least 3 to make 1 fairy. And then we're going to use some paint. So I have some of our Kid Made Modern washable paints here. You can use any colors you want. I have a petal and a black and a white here, but you can make your fairy in any color scheme as well. So these ones that we have here obviously have a lot of pink on them, but I also pulled some other colors today, same material. So you can make your fairy green or blue or purple, or all metallic, whatever you want to do is fine. So you're gonna need paint, which then means you're gonna need some paint brushes. We're gonna use some fuzzy sticks. So I have some metallic fuzzy sticks here. And our fuzzy sticks and our wooden craft sticks are all in the Kid Made Modern Arts and Crafts library. So these ones are already cut down to these like 6-inch size, and they're all metallic, but you can use, again, any color that you want. We are going to use these though to make our little fairy wings. So again, you can use a different color, but these are definitely going to be the easiest option to use to bend into our fairy wings. Then we're going to use some felt. So I got little felt strips also in our Kid Made Modern Arts and Crafts library. And then some little sequins. So I already pulled some out, some little flower sequins. I also grabbed a couple little just disc sequins. So you can use whatever kind you want. You can also use rhinestones or buttons or beads. You can definitely add more to this craft as well. And then lastly, you're gonna need some scissors, glue dots. So I have a little roll of glue dots here. You can use a white glue as well if you want to. It will take a little longer for things like fuzzy sticks or felt to dry. So glue dots are the easiest thing to use. And then lastly, we're going to be using just a marker to draw a little face on our fairies at the end. So we kind of blew through that whole supply list. If you guys have any questions on what we're using, or maybe a substitute, if you don't have something that we have today, put that in the Q&A and we will come up with solutions. So I'm going to flip my camera on so you guys can see my hands and we will get started. Okay, so I'm gonna move some things out of the way here so we can have a nice, easy surface to craft on. So we're gonna start with our little craft sticks here first. And we're going to assemble all 3 wooden craft sticks together. And to do that, we're gonna use our glue dots. So this is a step you could definitely use white glue for, or if you're crafting with an adult, you can use a hot glue gun as well. But glue dots, for those of you who are using them and have crafted with us before, you know we love the mess-free option. So I'm going to take one of my little wooden craft sticks and I'm going to put little glue dots. You kind of see that little shiny dot there. I'm going to put quite a few glue dots all the way down the center of my stick. If you're using just craft glue, then this step I would just do a little line of glue down the middle. All right, so I can kind of see all those little shiny dots are different little glue dots. So I have them all up and down my whole little craft stick. And then I'm going to take my other 2 craft sticks and I'm going to lay them on top. So they're going to go just to the center of the craft stick with glue dots, leaving space for the other one. And hold on, guys. As you do this, we're going to push our craft sticks down just a tiny bit. So we want to have a little top piece here and our top ones to overlap, hanging down a little bit to create our little fairy feet. So when you put them all together, just put a little bit of pressure on these. This is how the front of your craft stick should look. So you've got 2 little rounded ends here that will be our little fairy feet, and a little top piece here that we're going to cover that with little fairy hair so you won't even see that portion. And this is what the back of your craft stick little cluster should look like. Okay. So now our next step is going to be painting them. So let's see here. We are going to use some paint. You can use, again, any colors that you want today. I'm going to do a couple different little colors on this. So our first step is going to be painting a little shirt on our fairy. I'm going to do a little pink shirt. I'm going to come down to a little bit above the halfway point. And I'm just going to paint a little like scalloped or a little V-neck. This will be the top of our little shirt here. And I'm just going to paint across, creating a little, about an inch or so of a little painted shirt. If you want to, you can definitely paint both sides if you want to make your fairy 360 all the way around, but you don't have to. I would wait till one side is totally dry, so you could always paint it at the end if you wanted to paint the back as well. Okay, so now that we've done our little shirt there, we're going to also then use our white paint to paint some little tights on our fairy. Again, all these colors are optional. It's totally up to you how much you want to add to yours, or maybe you want to do different colors. I'm going to paint my little white tights. It's just lightening this wood color a little bit. And I'm just going to paint almost to the bottom, but leaving a little bit of space at the end so we can paint on some little shoes too. And I'm not worried about this edge where my colors meet. So if our paints are still wet, so I'm not quite overlapping them because we're going to cover that little edge with a little skirt or a little tutu. So don't have to worry about that looking messy or your colors blending. Okay, and then lastly, we're going to do some little shoes here. So I'm going to take my black paint and just carefully, I'm just going to paint a little curved line on the bottom. You can do a little straight line too. Doing a simple little curve with the tip of my paintbrush and then just filling in toward the bottom. And we're going to do all these steps again as well. So while this fairy paint dries, we're going to start our second fairy because we are going to make 2 together today. So if you missed a step or you aren't sure, we're going to start the whole assembly process again in just a second. You can already kind of see a little ballerina fairy shape coming together. We've got a little shirt on, cute little white tights, and then we've got little black shoes. So we're going to set this one aside to let that dry. And then we can go ahead and assemble our second fairy body. So that way this can dry. We can go through all the steps again. And then by the time we're finished assembling our second one, our first fairy body will be dry and we can start decorating it. Okay, so again, this is just the same steps over again. If you're crafting right along with me, then you are ready to start a second one. If not, and you're just getting started, then you can definitely just follow along these steps and make your first fairy. So again, I'm just going to take my glue dots and go all the way down the center of one craft stick. Got a glue dot stuck to my finger there. All right, so then you can see again all those little shiny circles covered in glue dots. And then we're going to take our fuzzy stick, or sorry, take our wooden craft stick and overlap them on top about halfway over, and then leaving a gap at the top and letting this craft stick hang over the bottom a little bit. And then do the same thing with your third one, overlapping all those glue dots, lining up the bottom too, so you've got two little fairy feet. And then I just like to put some pressure there. So just squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Make sure that those glue dots hold on real tight. That's the key thing with a lot of glues, is that most of them need pressure. So if something's not sticking, oftentimes if you just set it there, it just needs a little bit of pressure. So if you hold it together, hold it in place for a moment, then it starts to adhere really quickly. Okay, so next we are going to paint again. And for this one, we're just going to do a little shirt and little shoes. So I'm going to take my paintbrush again and just do the same style that we did before. So I'm just going to take the tip of my paintbrush and paint a little V-neck shirt detail. And then just paint down about an inch or so. Again, you can use different colors. Got a little shirt here. And then we'll paint on some little shoes as well. This one I'm not painting tights on just because I like my fairies to all be unique, but you can definitely paint tights or paint other little details as well.
Tessa, Thenia and her mom are here from Downingtown, Pennsylvania.
Oh, welcome. Is it cold there? Seems like it would be. I'm in California, so it seems like everywhere else is cold. All right, so again, painting on some little shoes there. I just did a little curved line with my paintbrush at tip. But you can also do any style that you want. If you want to paint little laces, if you want to use paper instead of paint, you could definitely glue paper bits on for clothes instead. There's countless ways to customize your little fairies. Okay, so now we've got two little fairy bodies here. We are going to pull our first one forward since it's probably about finished drying. The wooden craft sticks usually absorb the paint pretty quickly. And we're going to set this one aside to let that dry. Okay, so our next step is going to be attaching some little fairy wings. So that's what we're going to use our fuzzy sticks for here. And you can use any colors that you want. think for this one, we'll make some little pink fairy wings. So I'm taking my pink metallic fuzzy sticks, and these ones again are already pre-cut this size from the Kid Made Modern Arts and Crafts Library. But if you are using longer fuzzy sticks, then I would cut these down to about 6 inches. And we're going to just bend these basically in half, but I'm only holding on to the ends, and I'm not bending this top portion so that it creates a nice curved wing and not a sharp angle. That's how our fairy wings are going to look. So I'm just going to kind of bend I'm just kind of bending them, holding them in place for a moment, squeezing the ends, but again, not bending this top curved portion. They're going to open up again as soon as I set them down, but we're going to glue them in place. And then for our last, we're going to use one more fuzzy stick here. I'm going to cut this one in half. And then do the same thing. So I'm going to bend. And I'm just going to kind of push my finger in it, that little loop, just to make it a nice little curved shape. And then do the same thing with this piece. Okay, so we've got all these funny little curved pieces, but they will look like fairy wings in just a moment. We're going to flip our little fairy body over. If your fairy is not quite dry yet, which mine you can see is already dry, which is great, but if you are not dry, just wait a moment before you flip it over, and then you can assemble your wings once it's dry. So we're going to take our little fairy wings here, and I'm going to hold the two ends together. I've got my looped end here with my little tails. I'm going to hold those together, and I'm going to put a glue dot on the end of there. I've got a little glue dot on there, and I'm going to attach it to the back of my fairy. And these you can definitely add more glue dots or use a hot glue gun as well for this portion if you are crafting with an adult. The glue dots will hold the fuzzy sticks in place. I just have them kind of overlapping one another. My larger curves on top. You can see if I flip this over, already looking like a little fairy. And so I've got my larger wings on top, slightly at an angle going up. And then we're going to do our little curves, our little wings at the bottom. Do the same thing, put a little fuzzy stick, and I'm going to cluster them all in the same spot, but have the small ones facing down. So when you flip over your fairy, you've got these adorable little wings. You can zhuzh them where you need to. You need to straighten them out anywhere or angle them. But there you have first little fairy wings in place. All right, so next, it's time to continue decorating our cute little fairy here. I'm using some other pink felt here. Again, these little felt strips, some of these even I've used previously, you can see for crafts. These are all from the Arts and Crafts Library. So we can add on some little hair next. Let's see here. We'll do this fun little bright pink hair. And for this, we want to do a little curved portion at the top so that it kind of frames the little fairy face. So to do that, I'm going to cut a little circle. Circular shape out first. So I went from the ends, you can see I just have this little rounded shape. I want to make sure that it's wide enough to go on top. And then I'm going to cut inside to create kind of like a little U shape almost. and that can fit right on top. Again, we're going to do all these steps again on our second fairy together. So if you missed a step, don't worry. I'm going to take this little portion of felt and put a couple of glue dots on the back of that. And then we're going to lay that right on top. And I'm just making sure that it covers up this little top portion so you don't see that little stick sticking out. And right now it kind of just looks like a little cap, which could also be cute. But if we want to add a little bun or a little ponytail, you can also add all different styles hair. So if you want to do long hair, you could cut that out too. But I'm just going to cut out a little ponytail shape. So I'm just going to kind of freehand cut a little curved shape to look like a little ponytail. So right now, this might not totally look like a little ponytail, but once we add it on top, it suddenly does. So to cut that out, I just cut a little curve shape and then taking my scissors, go angle it down to make this portion skinnier on the other end. And then we're just going to glue dot this onto the back of the little hair we just put on. We'll flip this over and it can glue dot right on top. And there it looks like she's got a fun little ponytail. She is ready to fly around and be adorable little fairy. And then we can add some other little adornments here. So I think first we want to add a little skirt. So let's cut out, maybe using our little light pink felt here. And you can cut out any shape you want. I'm going to do a little scalloped edge. So by that, I'm just going to do little curved shapes at the bottom. I'm just turning my felt as I cut to create little scallops at the bottom. Kind of look like little petals or little curves. And then I'm just going to take my scissors along the edge here and angle them to create a thinner portion at the top here so that it fits our little fairy body. And you can cut any style of skirt too. So maybe you want to do a simpler shape. You can always just cut almost like a little triangle shape. Just cut straight at an angle, straight across, and then straight down at an angle again. You could do a little triangle skirt if you want to. You can also make these little adornments out of paper, or you could do buttons. For our other one, we're going to do a little sequin skirt. So we'll show you how to do that as well. But there's no wrong way to customize these little fairies. For the little skirt, I'm just going to put a couple of glue dots on the back. And then I'm just going to line it up, overlapping the little painted on shirt. Okay, she is looking adorable, if I do say so myself. So next, let's add a cute little detail here. We can now add some little hair accessories. I'm going to add a little fuzzy stick belt. So to do that, I'm going to take my little fuzzy stick. I'm going to hold it along the top of my fairy and then just cut it where it needs to be trimmed to fit across the whole width of her. And then we'll glue that on as well. And all these little details are just fun to add on, and you can do countless different ways to make your fairies unique. So if yours looks just like this, then great. But if you have changed yours to make it look different, then that is even better. And we'd love to see it. So you can always post pictures of them on social media. We're always love to see what you guys come up with. Okay, and I'm going to take a little gold sequin and add a glue dot to the back. And put that on her hair, a little bow in her hair. And then lastly, we just need to add a cute little face. So I'm just taking a marker, just a black marker here. You can use a marker, you can use paint, totally up to you. And I'm just going to draw on 2 little eyes. And a couple little lines for little eyebrows. We got 2 little eyes, little eyebrows, added a little line off the eyes for a little eyelash. You can add a little mouth if you want to. You can do them just with no mouth too, is also cute. Do a little mouth. I'm just going to do a little U shape right across. So, and there you have your first little fairy all done. She's ready to play with, ready to fly. And you can see the back here. Again, it'd be really simple if you wanted to add more on the back, but I think that they're pretty adorable as is. They would be great just to play with, or you could definitely hang them, make them into a little ornament, add a little magnet to the back, make them a little fridge magnet. Countless ways to use these little cuties. Okay, so now that we've finished one, we are ready to make our second fairy, equally as adorable. So to do this next one, we're going to go ahead and do little fairy wings as well. I'm going to do a little blue color scheme on this one, just to change it up. Maybe you're using blue at home. If you are, let me know. And so to do this, we're going to flip over our fairy again. I'm going to take our little fuzzy sticks here. And we're going to bend these just like we did the first one. And our third little fuzzy stick here, we're going to cut in half. And you can definitely do fairy wings without the lower ones too. So you could just do 2 large wings like this instead. That would work as well. The little bottom wings are just a cute accessory. Okay, so now we've bent all these, we are ready to glue dot them in place. So I'm going to take my little loops here again, holding this loop portion on one end and the 2 little ends together. And I'm going to put the glue dot on both ends. You can always double check, make sure your fairy is facing the correct way. And then we're just going to glue dot our fairy wings, again, slightly at an angle going up. And do the same with the other on the other side. Now for the bottom portion. Again, they all meet right in the middle. You can't really see any of these ends. It looks nice and clean on the back. And the little ones facing downward to create a little wing structure. And you flip her over and you can reposition any as needed. The nice thing about the fuzzy sticks is that they're so bendable. They're really easy to position wherever you want them. All right, now that we've got wings, time to add, let's see here, let's add a little skirt. So to do that, we're gonna do a little sequin skirt. I pulled out all these little sequin flower shapes that are in the Arts and Crafts library and so adorable. And we're going to glue dot these on as well. So these I'm going to use 3 flower sequins. You can use more or less if you're doing sequins with me. And I'm going to add them on overlapping where the shirt and the tights meet. And I have one, as you can see, kind of hanging off one side. And then we'll do the same next to it. You can see our little skirt is overlapping, and then we'll do one more on top. And there you have a cute little sequin skirt. Looks kind of like a little ballerina tutu. Nice and fluffy little skirt that's adorable. All right, so next we've got to add some hair. So we again are going to use some felt here and cut out some little shapes. And this is totally up to you. You can add long waves if you want. You can cut out little braids or pigtails. For this first one, we obviously did a little ponytail on top. I think for this one, we'll do a little bun. I'm going to do it basically the same way by starting at the bottom portion here and cutting out a little curved shape. But as I curve to the top, I'm going to stop kind of right in the middle of where my whole little hair will be, and I'm going to add an extra little curve at the top for a little bun. That's how that little piece looks. You can see the little negative where I cut out. So you're going to curve up, and then once you get to the middle portion, curve again to make a little bun on top, and then curve all the way out. And then we're going to cut away the inside just like we did the first time to create a little like U shape. If you feel like your sides are a little long, you can just trim those down. And then your little bun should fit right on top. If you cut your little hair a little big or a little small, you can always trim it down to make it fit, or you can just take your first one. If you cut it too small and your wooden craft sticks are still showing, take your first piece and cut around it, but bigger. So that way you can use this as your template, knowing that it needs to be a little bit bigger than the original one you cut out. Sometimes it's an easy trick that if you don't get it right the first time, then just take that as your initial template, and you can kind of trace around that to make sure you cut it the right size. All right, I'm adding some little glue dots to the back of my little bun hair, and then we're just going to glue that right on top. Which is looking adorable. All right, let's add a cute little, what do we think? Maybe a blue sequin flower to her little bun on top. A little flower on top there. All right, and then lastly, we are going to add a little face. As we are wrapping up, if there are any questions we haven't answered, anything you guys want to share, definitely pop those in the Q&A. And again, I'm just taking my marker, and on either side of the center of my wooden craft sticks, I just drew 2 little dots. And then I'm going to take the little edge of my marker and expand the little eye just a little bit, just to create a little lash look. And then we'll do a little mouth here. You can do any style you want. The first one we did was just a little simple smile. This one you can do a little pucker if you want, or a little open mouth. And there you have your two little fairies that are ready to play with. And again, you can add as many other elements as you want. If you want to continue decorating these little fairies, you could easily add more adornments. You can cover the back, or you can just make a million of these because they're so cute and so easy to customize. So you can turn them into any style that you want. And just like that, you've made your own fairies. And we had so much fun crafting with you guys today. I hope that you had a great time as well. And I hope that you enjoy playing with your fairies. We will be back soon with some more crafting. So thank you so much to Michaels and Kid Made Modern, and we'll see you guys soon. Thanks.